A 73-year-old man was found dead in his bed, not from a heart attack, not from a stroke, but from something much more unexpected. A morning masturbation gone wrong. His body gave out during what should have been a moment of release. This isn't a rare case, it's a warning. I'm Dr. Mohit Khera, urologist and men's health specialist. I've spent over 30 years helping men over 60 stay strong, sexually healthy, and confident, not just in the clinic, but in life. What if something as simple and natural as morning self-pleasure, when done wrong, was slowly weakening your heart, your prostate, even your ability to feel joy? In this episode, I'll reveal 7 dangerous mistakes older men make while masturbating in the morning, and how you can avoid them to protect your health and vitality. And mistake number 4, it's one almost every man makes, and it could be silently draining your energy every single day. Before we begin, if you care about protecting your health and staying strong as you age, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. That way, you'll never miss another tip designed specifically for men like you. And if this message speaks to you, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0. I'm always listening, and I'm here to improve for you. Let's start with the very first, and perhaps most overlooked, mistake. It's something many older men do automatically, without thinking, the moment they open their eyes. But this one habit, done at the wrong time, could be putting serious strain on your heart and nervous system. Mistake 1. Masturbating immediately after waking up. One of the most dangerous mistakes older men make is masturbating immediately after waking up. It might feel like the most natural thing to do. Your body is rested, testosterone levels are slightly elevated, and you may wake up with an erection. But acting on that urge too quickly, without giving your body time to adjust, can be risky, especially in your 60s or beyond. When you sleep, your heart rate and blood pressure drop. Upon waking, your body needs time to transition back into a fully alert, active state. Jumping into sexual stimulation before this process completes can cause a sudden spike in heart rate and blood pressure, placing unnecessary strain on your cardiovascular system. For some men, this abrupt shift has led to dizziness, chest tightness, and in rare but real cases, cardiac events. Beyond the heart, there's also the nervous system to consider. Morning masturbation too soon after waking can trigger a rapid overload of dopamine, followed by a crash that leaves you feeling fatigued, emotionally flat, or unmotivated for the rest of the day. What should be a pleasurable, energizing start becomes a silent energy drain. If you're over 60, the simple truth is this: your body is more sensitive to abrupt changes. What your body handled at 30, it may no longer tolerate without consequence. That's why I strongly advise men to give themselves at least 20 to 30 minutes after waking. Hydrate. Move a little. Let your blood pressure stabilize. Then, if you choose to engage in sexual activity, your body will be far better prepared to handle it safely. It might sound harmless, but this habit, done at the wrong time, can quietly chip away at your stamina, heart health, and emotional balance over time. And it's only the beginning. Because the next mistake, it's one that attacks your brain's ability to feel pleasure. And most men have been falling into it for decades without realizing the cost. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. Mistake 2. Using porn that overstimulates the brain. The second mistake is one that's become almost automatic for many men, especially in the privacy of the morning. It's using pornography, specifically high-stimulation, fast-paced, digitally enhanced porn, to kickstart arousal. For younger men, the effects might be subtle, but for older men, especially those over 60, this habit can quietly rewire your brain and wreak havoc on your emotional and sexual health. When you watch extreme porn, your brain is flooded with unnatural levels of dopamine, the chemical tied to motivation, pleasure, and desire. The problem is, your brain wasn't designed to handle that much stimulation in such a short amount of time. Over time, it begins to numb out. The more you consume, the less you feel. What once excited you no longer does. And worse, it can reduce your ability to become aroused with a real partner in real life under real emotional connection. This creates a dangerous cycle. You start needing more intense content just to feel something. You become disconnected from your own body, your own emotions, and from the people who care about you. It doesn't just hurt your performance, it hurts your confidence, your intimacy, and your ability to enjoy life in the moment. Some men describe it as feeling emotionally flat, foggy, or even depressed by midday, and they have no idea it started with what they watched that morning. For men in their later years, the brain's ability to recover from overstimulation slows down. You simply can't afford to play games with your dopamine. The damage can be long-term. That's why I encourage you to consider stepping away from the screen. Use memory, imagination, or touch. Reconnect with the sensual, human part of the experience. Your brain and your future self will thank you. And if you think overstimulating your brain is dangerous, wait until you hear what happens when you physically strain your body during climax. The next mistake involves something almost every man does, without realizing how risky it really is. Mistake 3. Masturbating while holding your breath or straining. This next mistake is incredibly common, yet few men ever talk about it. It's the habit of holding your breath, clenching your muscles, or physically straining during masturbation or climax. For men over 60, this isn't just a bad habit, it's dangerous, and in some cases, it can be deadly. When you strain, especially in the moment of orgasm, you're forcing your body into a sudden spike of internal pressure. Your chest tightens, your blood vessels constrict, and your brain is temporarily starved of oxygen. This is known as a Valsalva maneuver, and it's something people do unconsciously when lifting something heavy or bearing down. But doing it during sexual activity, particularly in the morning when blood pressure is already elevated, can trigger serious health events. I've seen cases of mini strokes, fainting, and even heart arrhythmias, all linked to this one behavior. Even if it doesn't cause an immediate medical emergency, the long-term consequences are just as serious. Repeated straining can lead to vascular damage, weakened pelvic floor muscles, and even nerve compression. Men often come into my office complaining of tingling, numbness, or reduced sensitivity, and they never suspect that this one subtle habit could be the root cause. Remember, climax is meant to be a release, not a physical struggle. Your body is not a machine. It's a system of delicate responses, especially as you age. Relaxation, breathing, and awareness are your greatest allies in preserving long-term sexual function and overall health. If you've been gripping, tensing, or holding your breath out of habit, now's the time to stop. Make space for breath. Soften into the experience. You'll not only feel better, you'll protect yourself from serious harm. But even if you breathe correctly, there's another risk that most men never consider. It's not about how you touch your body, but what you forget to do before and after. And this next mistake could quietly be setting you up for painful, recurring infections without you ever realizing it. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 4. Mistake 4. Not urinating before or after masturbation. One of the most overlooked yet incredibly dangerous mistakes older men make is failing to urinate either before or after masturbation. It might sound harmless. After all, what difference could a quick trip to the bathroom really make? But in reality, this small habit plays a big role in protecting your urinary tract, your prostate, and your overall sexual health, especially as you age. When you skip urinating before masturbation, you allow concentrated overnight urine to sit in the bladder while the body experiences increased pressure and stimulation. For older men with even mild prostate enlargement, this can lead to incomplete bladder emptying, irritation of the urethra, and in some cases, a painful backup of fluids. On the other end, failing to urinate afterward leaves residual semen and bacteria in the urethral tract, creating the perfect breeding ground for infections. I've treated countless older men who suffer from chronic urinary tract infections, unexplained burning sensations, or pressure in the lower abdomen, many of them unaware that simply not urinating around their sexual routine could be the hidden trigger. For those with a sensitive prostate, this mistake can even lead to prostatitis, a painful and recurring inflammation that can damage sexual performance, bladder function, and quality of life. Urinating before helps clear the urethra and reduce pressure. Urinating after helps flush out any remaining bacteria, semen, and irritants. It's one of the easiest ways to protect your body, but so many men skip it out of habit or discomfort. If you're serious about aging well and avoiding unnecessary pain or medical complications, make this step non-negotiable. Now, even if you follow every step I've shared so far, there's still one common behavior that's causing physical damage from the outside in. It's not about timing or internal pressure or even hygiene. It's about the way you actually touch your body. And what I'll share next may shock you, because it's something most men think they're doing right. Mistake 5. Using too much pressure or aggressive hand techniques. This next mistake is one of the most physically damaging, and unfortunately, it's also one of the most common. Many older men, without realizing it, apply excessive pressure or use overly aggressive hand techniques when masturbating. Over the years, it becomes a habit, a way of compensating for reduced sensitivity or slower arousal. But here's the truth. What feels necessary in the moment may be silently damaging your most delicate tissue. As men age, the skin of the penis becomes thinner, the blood vessels more fragile, and the nerves more vulnerable. Using strong force, rough strokes, or a tight grip can cause microtears, bruising, and even nerve compression. Over time, this leads to desensitization, where it takes more and more stimulation to feel the same pleasure. Some men even develop conditions like Peyronie's disease, where scar tissue builds inside the shaft, leading to painful curvature and erectile difficulties. I've had patients come in with numbness, a loss of sensation, or difficulty achieving climax, and in many cases, the cause wasn't internal at all. It was the repeated trauma from years of harsh mechanical movement. The body responds to injury with inflammation, and that inflammation over time can damage the very structures responsible for pleasure. What's even more concerning is that most men don't feel the damage right away. It accumulates silently. What starts as a mild loss of sensitivity becomes a permanent change in function, and once nerves are damaged, recovery is slow and not always complete. That's why it's so important to be mindful of how you treat your body during moments of pleasure. A gentler approach, with proper lubrication and relaxed technique, can protect sensation and preserve your sexual function well into later life. But even if you touch gently and breathe correctly, there's still a trap many men fall into, one that doesn't just affect the body, but the mind and emotions. Because when you masturbate from the wrong emotional state, it can create a cycle of emptiness, guilt, and even depression. And that's exactly what we're going to uncover next. Mistake 6. Masturbating when you're emotionally low or anxious. This mistake is one of the most silently destructive because it doesn't just affect your body, it impacts your emotional well-being and mental stability. Masturbating when you're feeling emotionally low, lonely, stressed, or anxious may seem like a quick way to feel better, but it often has the opposite effect, especially for men over 60. At this stage of life, emotional regulation and mental resilience are deeply tied to your hormone balance, your nervous system, and your sense of purpose. When you use self-pleasure as a form of escape, rather than connection or expression, you can unknowingly create a cycle of emotional depletion. Many men come to me describing how they feel good for a moment after climax, only to be hit by a wave of fatigue, sadness, or guilt shortly after. This is because the brain's reward system was stimulated without a meaningful emotional context. You get a brief spike of dopamine and oxytocin, but no real intimacy, no connection, and no deeper satisfaction. Over time, this pattern teaches the brain to associate pleasure with isolation. It leads to emotional flatness, reduced motivation, and in some cases, symptoms that mirror clinical depression. What makes this particularly dangerous is that it's subtle. You might think you're just having a slow day, but in reality, you're draining your emotional reserves without replenishing them. And in older men, that emotional depletion can spill over into every part of life, relationships, energy levels, and even your will to stay active and engaged. Pleasure should come from a place of calm, gratitude, and presence, not from stress, boredom, or sadness. If you find yourself reaching for release when you're emotionally off balance, pause, walk, breathe, connect with someone. Your emotional health is just as vital as your physical strength. And yet, even if you're emotionally grounded, careful with technique, and mindful in your timing, there's one more mistake that often goes completely unnoticed. It's not about how you feel, but about the signals your body is trying to send you, and what happens when you ignore them. Mistake 7. Ignoring what your body is trying to tell you. The final mistake may be the most dangerous of all, because it's not about what you do, but what you choose to ignore. Far too many older men dismiss early warning signs their body is trying to send. Numbness, weak or delayed orgasms, a burning sensation during urination, a slight ache in the groin, or a feeling of pressure that wasn't there before. These symptoms are quietly brushed aside as just getting older. But they're not just age, they're messages, and ignoring them can lead to serious, sometimes irreversible consequences. Your body speaks in subtle ways. It gives you hints when something isn't working right, when nerves are inflamed, when blood flow is restricted, when the prostate is irritated, or the bladder isn't emptying fully. Masturbation can uncover these issues early, but only if you're paying attention. The tragedy is that many men wait until the signs become pain, dysfunction, or disease before seeking help. By then, the damage is often harder to reverse. I've seen men lose sensation permanently, face ongoing urinary problems, or suffer from chronic pelvic pain because they didn't act when the first signs appeared. And all it would have taken was a simple checkup, a conversation, a scan, a test. Awareness is prevention, and silence can be a sentence. You owe it to yourself to listen, not just to your thoughts, but to your body's quiet signals. If something feels off, don't wait. You've made it this far in life by listening to your instincts. Don't let embarrassment or pride hold you back from protecting the years ahead. Now, if these 7 mistakes have opened your eyes, even just a little, then stay with me, because the conclusion we're about to reach is more than just a summary. It's a call to action. I'll show you how to take these lessons and turn them into strength, energy, and clarity, not someday, but starting today. Conclusion. If you've made it this far, then I want to thank you, not just for listening, but for caring enough to take a closer look at something most men never talk about. The truth is, masturbation in itself is not the enemy. It's natural, it's healthy, and when done mindfully, it can even support your vitality as you age. But these 7 mistakes we've covered, they are quiet, silent threats. Not dramatic, not obvious, but deeply dangerous when repeated over time. I've worked with men for over 3 decades, and I can tell you this: most of the challenges I see in my clinic didn't come from major trauma or sudden illness. They came from small habits, ignored symptoms, and subtle imbalances that were allowed to grow. Straining during climax, rushing into stimulation the moment you wake, relying on aggressive techniques, ignoring emotional states, overstimulating your brain, skipping simple steps like urinating before or after, each of these adds up. Slowly, quietly, until the body begins to break down in ways that feel sudden but were building for years. This conversation isn't about shame, it's about awareness. It's about knowing better so you can do better. You deserve to age with strength, with clarity, with confidence. You deserve pleasure that leaves you energized, not depleted. Connection that's real, not virtual. Health that supports the life you still want to live. If something you heard today hit home, don't just listen. Take one step, make one change, then another. Because real transformation doesn't come from big leaps. It comes from quiet choices made consistently. You've made it through the most critical part, but your journey toward better health doesn't stop here. In the next episode, I'll share the exact morning routine I recommend to my older male patients. A simple yet powerful set of steps to support your heart, hormones, and vitality every single day. Your next chapter can be your strongest yet. Let's walk into it together.